My mission is to eat cornflakes in every country in the world, and in 2007 Albania became the 36th country when I passed through on my cycle tour from Greece to Croatia. In the last few days cycling through Greece, I visited the beautiful Matora and then began to battle against the mountains and the weather.
Like 2.5 hours, probably about 16 kilometers of uphill. I've got uphill and it's absolutely fantastic weather. I love it. Now I've got some waterproof stuff and I'm covered all my gear in plastic, hoping that that I can stay dry. We shall see. Right, so the weather's taken a real bad turn for the worse. In fact, it's freezing.
But I survived, and as I approached Albania, the sun came out and I managed to dry some clothes.
On a beautiful day.
Crossing the border was pretty painless. It cost me €1 in terms of tax. Everyone was smiling. There's a lot of people around the border, as in most borders. One even asked me if I wanted a taxi, which made me laugh quite loud. But they all seem to be just basically hanging around, exchanging money and getting drunk as skunks. In a town now, which is called Gjirokastra. Basically encroaches up this hill, so I'm going to give you the view and you can see, I mean, this is a typical example of how poor and run down the area is. There's a big hole in this guy's roof here. As we pan round, it's a certain beautiful area. My first impressions of Albania so far are it's a very poor country. The drivers are very bad. I've almost been hit once and it was proper close, and this guy was driving on completely the wrong side of the road. They all think they're racing drivers. Now, as I'm cycling through, I've been noticing tons of these tiny, they look like concrete igloos. If I zoom in on some of these in the distance, they're scattered everywhere. I got up close to one of these things. Obviously you can see what that bit's for. I found out a little bit about Albania. Now, it was basically there was 50 years of a dictatorship, which was basically a communist dictatorship, which is why there's apparently 800,000 of those little concrete bunkers I was showing you, and it's just because this dictator was pretty paranoid, I believe. So it's coming up to 6 o'clock Greek time, 5 o'clock Albanian time, so light is probably only about 45 minutes to an hour left. So I'm going to get out of this town, head that way, and find somewhere to camp. Right, so it's morning of day 18. This is where I camped last night. Found a really nice, pretty spot next to the river, which is flowing down to a little cascadey, waterfall type thing that goes behind those trees. There's a little pack up all my junk. My plan today is to basically carry on through this valley and try and get 50 to 60 miles done. Maybe end up close to the coast.
As it turned out, I had real problems with the road, which not only slowed me down a lot, but also caused problems with the back wheels, which carry so much weight.
I've now been going for a long time, probably over 10 kilometers, and it's been just utter madness. The road has been awful. So it's following a river down here.
Stopping in the little towns and villages gave me some rest from battling against the road. One thing I noticed was that half the cars I saw were Mercedes, and my presence seemed to attract a lot of attention as cars honked their horns and kids followed me or just sat and stared.
These kids have been sat here watching me eat for the last 30-40 minutes. Say hello!
As I cycled, I felt like I had gone back in time. As I was cycling up out of a valley, I came across a couple of guys slaughtering sheep at the side of the road. I sat there and watched and was surprised to see them using a bike pump to separate some of the inner membranes. I finished the day sitting at camp overlooking the valley I had just climbed out of.
About 10 miles down the road, just cycling along around this road, it follows this hill around here. You can see all these old dilapidated, rusty old containers in the background, and you can see some pumps. There's a pump here. If I follow around, you can see a ton of them here. The best one we can zoom in on is this one here. So I think it's basically an oil refinery, like I was saying, and it's so strange cycling through Albania because it's like going back in time. It really is. It absolutely stinks, and it reminds me of the tar pits in Los Angeles. the smell of it, and you can see that there's just, you know, a lot of obviously oil here.
I love the spirit in the people. As the day was ending, I passed a guy with no legs who was in the middle of the road begging cars for money. Then I ended up jumping in a field as I was running out of time and light.
So I had a really nice encounter with this restaurant owner yesterday. He basically, I was cycling along the road about 5, 6, 7 miles back, and he came running out and said, "Hey, let me buy you a tea or a coffee," and we sat and had a chat for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and I ended up having a beer. Actually, he tried one of the local beers called Nova.
8:20. I just stopped at a BP garage for some breakfast. Had my... Say it again? No, I go to Tirana. Thank you anyway. Is that? Anglia, yeah, from England. Good to meet you. The situation is I basically went to pump up my tyre and my inner tube's bust. Now, I did buy a spare in Greece, but it turns out that the guy sold me a complete duff. My options are narrowed down to one. I have to basically walk to the next town, hope that they've got a bike shop. I've asked the guy in the hotel, he's written down on a piece of paper in Albanian, "Can you point me towards the bike shop?" I've got to hope that they sell an inner tube that's suitable for my wheel. If not, I don't really know what. I guess then I'll have to go for a bus onto the capital and hope that I can find one there. I'd like to just show you the bar cafe. But there's a bar in there. It's a full-on bar. I went in there and filled up with water, and there's beer and wine and whiskey and everything. Interesting turn of events happened here. So I basically walked out of that BP station, and a couple of 100 metres down the road got picked up by this guy in the van. Very nice guy who drove me to the next town and took me to some bike shops, and they didn't sell any of the inner tubes I needed. So fortunately for me, he actually drove me to the capital. He was driving to the capital anyway in this van, which is where I am sat now. It's apparently 300-year-old mosque. This is the government building, all government buildings, and then there's another kid up here who's giving me a hassle, and there's a opera house, and I don't know what the hell this building is actually, but you can see it's pretty vibrant.
I stopped on the way out of the capital to have my Albanian flakes before continuing north. Whilst looking at a map, I was invited to tea by an evangelical Christian who brought some cousins along to translate as they tried to convert me. He failed, but wanted to leave me a message anyway.
Unë kam takuar ishte në bicikletë aty.
He met you with a bicycle there.
Por njëri i gëzuar, i qeshur.
You are a glad man, a smile man.
Dhe unë besoj që Zoti ka një plan me mikun.
And he believed that God have a plan with you.
Zoti do të përdor për lavdinë e tij.
Si?
Zoti do ta përdor për lavdinë e tij.
God will use you for her si thot lavdi? Glory, for her glory.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
And God bless all England.
I have cycled this morning about 10, 12 miles from where I camped to this town called Lezhe, L-E-Z-H-E. Basically, he ended up paying for the beer. Then I told him that I needed to get some bread for today, for this morning, for breakfast, and he ended up buying the bread for me, which was, an act of kindness, which was a little bit overwhelming considering the amount of money that the people in this area have. Then, as I was cycling north 2 hours, about 2 miles north of the city, he comes chasing after me on his moped and gives me a bag of all this fruit and chocolate and all sorts of apples. And I have here this is one of the fruits. It's a local fruit which I've never seen before. I don't know what the hell it's called, but I'm gonna try it anyway. I saw him eating one, so I know how to eat it. It's got pips inside. It's very nice. It's sweet. It's crunchy. This is the tomb of Skanderberg. Now, this is a statue of Skanderberg, who is basically the national hero. It's a very old ancient cathedral, or the ruins of it. Now, around the outside, these are all his battles. Quite a lot of them. And just to show you what one of these looks like, this is obviously the 1465 Battle of Bajkal.
I crossed into Montenegro before sundown and camped in a field where I assessed damage to my back wheel. My journey continued along the Adriatic coast until I reached 5 weeks, when I flew home from Zagreb with a Campylobacter infection and a cracked wheel rim.
It takes a revolution to make a solution. Too much confusion, so much frustration.